Hello. Wait for you all to come in. So last time we were looking at the Bodhicharyavatara. Just going to share screen with you. Hang on. Screen. Here we are. In this verse, Marco, who isn't with us right now, Marco pointed out this word spashtam here. And Marco told me that the other editions have sputam with the same meaning. And I looked up in my other editions and found that they did indeed have sputam. So what we're going to have to do, oops, sorry, sputam. So instead of spashtam, sputam, it's not vastly significant. Both words would have the same meaning. That means evidently, clearly. But I've an awful feeling that I was deceiving myself into making a wrong reading because it was just, you know how people like me, we always want to kind of prove our own point, follow these etymological threads through. And it would have been so much nicer if it had been spashtam rather than sputam, that I probably, deceived myself into misreading it for this spashtam. So spashtam meaning evidently, obviously. And this is one of my fun bits of etymology, as you know, because from the root spush, we get, it comes into Latin as speck. Very often a sh in Sanskrit turns up as a k in Latin. So speck, spectacle, inspect, respect, circumspect, all these spect things. Anyway, there it is. It actually seems to be, the correct reading seems to be sputam. So I say it doesn't alter the meaning in any way. Both of the words mean clearly, evidently, obviously. So can anybody just remind me, and keep failing to make my own notes now, can anyone remind me exactly the point that we reached in this verse a week ago? Welcome, Dilly.
I think we finished it, didn't we? And
we finished it, did we? Oh. Had we started the chanting?
No, we hadn't. We didn't do any recitation.
Okay, right, fine. So we got to the end of the analysis of the verse, but hadn't started the recitation. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
James, you did ask me to follow up my inquiry about Atman and Anatman.
I did, yes,
Yeah,
please.
I found a very interesting article online about it, which I thought was very even-handed in its discussion of the issue.
Mhm.
It's a 50-page PDF which I downloaded and went through. Where I am at present is it seems to be the case that the two teachings, the Hindu and the Buddhist teachings, are not necessarily contradictory. In fact, depending on how you look at it, they seem to be complementary.
Okay, right.
If you like, I could just send you this article rather than, because it is pretty dense stuff, although very interesting. I could send it to you for anybody who might be interested in.
Okay, so that would be great actually. Then if you could email it to me, Chris, then I'll just be
Yeah.
able to just email it to the rest of the group.
Yeah.
May I
It does-
take it that since it's a 50-page document, it's not something you could summarize in a few seconds now?
Not really, and as I say, it's a debate which has been going on for centuries. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of it seems to be over terminology
Mm-hmm.
and poor definition of what exactly you mean, and whether or not you're talking at the level of ultimate or relative truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, but taking it all together and looking at both sides of the argument, it does seem to be that they're not, as I say, they're not necessarily at loggerheads. And understood correctly, it's just they're complementary. But I think it's something that people need, if they're interested, to kind of analyze and decide for themselves. And as I say, I've reached a certain point, but I think there's a lot further to go. So it's not the sort of discussion that I think might be appropriate. It would just go on too long.
Okay, well, thanks very much indeed for that, Chris. So I'll look forward to receiving this
Okay.
the article from you. And as I say, when I do my regular weekly email to the group, hopefully this evening, but no later than tomorrow morning, I'll be able to send it out.
Yeah, there's all the appropriate Sanskrit and Pali terminology embedded within it.
Yeah.
And so it might be of interest from that point of view alone.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks very much for that, Chris. Thank you. So what we'll do then, we'll just go through this verse, just a few recitations of it before moving on to the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll just read it out first. So Nityo hyachetanashchatma vyomavats putamakriyah pratyayantara sangepi nirvikarasya kakriya. This is a philosophically quite complex one. It's not something that easily fits into the mind, and one can go on and on thinking about it. But for the moment, let us restrict ourselves to how to pronounce it nicely. Would you like to start us off, Barry?
Yes. Nityo hyache. I'll start again. Nityo hyachatanas chatma vyomavat spashtam makriyaha pratyayantara sanghe pi nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Right. I think I might have detected a slight aspiration of the g there, but that could be that could be just a disturbance in the airwaves. Just to remember, as I think I mentioned last time, we have these two words, sangha and sangha, which are kind of semantically overlap in meaning, but they are from separate roots, and they are separate words. The sangha with an aspirated g with the h there is just the community, as we know, whereas a sangha is any kind of coming together, any conjoining contact. Any one of those is a sangha. So there's a coincidental similarity of sound, a coincidental overlap of meaning, but two totally distinct words. And also, again, I've said this many times before, that whereas we might say, oh, it's just what does one little H, what difference does one little H make? Well, of course, sangha and sangha are two entirely different sounds for the Indian Sri Lankan ear. Okay, thank you, Barry. We're round to you, Madeline.
Yes. Nityo ya chetanash Nityo ya chetanashatma Vyomavat spatpashtamakriyaha Pratyayantara sangepi Nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. The Chetana.
Yes.
Though it's he achetana cha atma, chetana chatma. Remembering that the visarga achetanacha, you'd write it with the santi vigra, achetanash chatma.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
which you got perfectly correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Shriyanimala, your turn.
Nityo hayachetastas Nityo hayachetastasma Vyoma vasaspas kriyah Pratyayanatarang sangepi nirvikarasya ka priya. As I'm
There were
speaking.
several tongue twisters there. What I'm going to ask you to do just once more, Srinamala, is just this pada here.
Nityo haya chetanasta.
So just say,
Chetanastama.
so just say achetanash chatma, achetanash chatma.
Needs Chetanasta Chatma.
That's better.
Chetanastama.
Nityuhi achetanash chatma.
Yeah, I'm speaking the Devanagari. Okay.
So are you reading it off the Devanagari?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Is there anybody else who's been reading? Is there anybody else here who prefers to read it off the Devanagari?
Yeah.
Sanyu, do you actually prefer to read it off the Devanagari?
I'll try. I'll try.
Okay, why didn't you have yours? Thank you very much, Shenamala. Let's try. See if you can do it straight off the Devanagari, Sanyu.
Yes. Nityo hya chetanash chatma vyo mavat syash dhamma kriyaha pratyayan
It's a pratyayantara.
Pratyayantra sangepi nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Okay, very good. This one is actually rather full of tongue twisters. So this is pratyaya antara, Just mean pratyayantara. Pratyayantara.
Pratyayantra.
No, not andra, antara, pratyayantara.
Pratyayantra. Dara.
You're missing out this vowel here. Tara,
Okay.
pratyantara. Pratyayantara.
Pratyayantara.
Okay, that's it. That's it. You've got it. On this question of reading things in the Devanagari script, here Chetanaschatma, I really don't know who had the idea. I mean, personally, speaking purely subjectively, I think it's an absolutely awful idea. You run everything into one just because you can join the letters. You must. And I honestly don't know who had the idea, but there it's stuck, and now we've all got to do it. In fact, even in modern India, because in Hindi it doesn't run the words together like that. They kind of separate out. They don't have a sandhi in modern Hindi. But you find even nowadays there are some the movements and attempts to get for the improvement and furthering of the study of Sanskrit. There are even Sanskrit-speaking villages. And you can even find newspapers, magazines in Sanskrit. And they're generally written in a fairly simple Sanskrit. They're designed to assist people to learn. But interestingly enough, the very first thing that the editors do when they're printing something in Sanskrit to help people learn, even people whose native script is the Devanagari, Hindi speakers, for example, that would be the script they grow up with. The first thing they do is separate out the sandhi. It's well recognized that it's the sandhi, and then running not so much the sandhi, but the script is run together, and the letter and the words kind of joined up together. You can hardly see where one ends and the other starts. So when they're helping their own people learn, the first thing they do is separate out into separate words. Anyway, I'm afraid we've just got to put up with it. Incidentally, in the Bhagavad Gita, which we'll be coming to as soon as we've you'll have seen that this Bhagavad Gita, the edition, the version that I've given you, with the Devanagari in two forms. This is the Devanagari as it's normally written, but so tam tata kripaya avishtam. Oops. What have they done here? They've done exactly the same thing. They've taken out the sandhi, and this is this I've copied and pasted this block of Devanagari from an edition that was done in India in Sanskrit and Hindi for the benefit of learners whose native language was Hindi. There again, what they do, they give it in the regular Devanagari script as it should properly be written, and then separating it all out. So it is well recognized even among the modern Indians. Even the modern Indians need a bit of help in separating out this script. It's not just a question of knowing the script, it's just the complex way it was written. So look at here. Kripaya avishtam ashru purna akula ikshana. It's all written as it looks like one long word here. Kripaya avishtam ashru purna kulekshanam. So don't feel too downcast if you find it a little bit difficult. Even those whose native script it is have the same difficulty, which is why the editors and the teachers come in to help them with this convenient way of splitting the words up.
Why have they changed in the first word, for example? Why have they changed the anusvara to an M?
Oh, here you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't that change the sound?
Yes, it does. It does. If this word was standing on its own in isolation, it would be tam written as like here, Tam, with a full consonantal M. And that's why it's so written here. And if it was standing on its own just as one sentence, who did it? Him. Whom did you see? Him. So if it were an isolated word, that's what it would be. And this sandhi vigraha, literally the taking out of the sandhi, shows what each word is as it would be in isolation, without being joined either to the preceding or to the following word. So it just shows each word in isolation. Now, dum on its own, dum tata. Join them together. What have you got to do? A final M before a consonant becomes an uswara. What happens to an uswara with a following t? It's pronounced as a n. Dum tata. But that's only the effect of sandhi that does that. Without sandhi, it would be dum tata. And for example, if this dum were appearing at the end of a sentence or the end of a line of poetry or at the end of a group of words in prose, it would be written just with a full consonantal M, exactly as here. So this is the full form of the word in isolation. And if you were looking at a grammar of the Sanskrit language in the chapter on pronouns, you get the third person singular accusative, sah, he, tam, him. That is how you will see it. So if we're discussing that word, you say, what is the accusative of saha? So the accusative is tam. Can you write it for me? And that's exactly the way I've highlighted there, how I would write it in the Devanagari script. Because when you're looking at a word in isolation, so if you're discussing the word, as in a grammar, then sandhi doesn't yet come into play. But as soon as you start putting the words together into running speech, running writing, then all the sandhi floods in. But you're right. With sandhi, it's pronounced tan ta, written differently and pronounced differently. So it's denatured, as it were, from what it on its own just wants to be thumb with an M. But in comes sandhi, and okay, they've all got to arrange themselves to the preceding and to the following words.
Thank you, James.
Right. Sometimes you can't really get away with it. For example, ashru purna. Okay, you don't actually, they've conveniently put in a hyphen there. Ashru purna, two hyphens. Ashru hyphen purna hyphen akula, which of course Sanskrit would never have. And that's what, but then you get into a little problem because akula ikshanam, there's a hyphen there. But it's more than just separating the words, because the final a followed by the initial e of the next word by sandhi becomes a. So when you put a hyphen, you've also got to change the way it's spelt. Akula ikshanam. In running speech, akulekshanam. But when you say take out the sandhi, akula ikshanam. So you do that for teaching purposes, explanatory purposes, but you would never do it in ordinary running speech. So I'm not quite sure, I'm often a little bit worried whether I'm leaving you in a state of now we understand or a state of even worse bafflement than existed before.
James, thank you. You actually answered one question that I had been coming upon with the long lines in the Devanagari. And I thought if you took an English sentence and removed all the spaces between the words, how could we read that? But when it's in Sanskrit, the reading people can do it easily. And I'm wondering if they can separate out the words themselves when they're reading it.
I think the answer has to be yes. In fact, it's not a total yes, because as I mentioned, calling back this text of the Devanagari here, there still is a little bit of difficulty unless you're very experienced at it. But people do get used to reading long strings of words. Thai is an example, for example. Thai. Now, normally when you're writing in Thai, you just run the words together. There won't be a gap between them right up until the end of a sentence. Although they may do it for phrases, but it may get several words if it's one word group. They won't actually put a word division between them. Now, Thai doesn't have any sandhi. They're all separate words, but if you're a Thai speaker, you just have got to get used to reading it. Yeah, if we just take out, looking at here, we see where I've run them together. Thus overcome by pities. It starts off being a little bit difficult for us, and there could be ambiguities, but you just get used to it as time goes on. Sanyu, in Burmese, do you do the same as in Thai? You run everything together?
Yes.
So
In
can you tell us your personal experience of having your native language that writes in this way?
In fact, in Burmese is because the language for the we take adapt from the Devanagari, but the language itself is from the other branch, Sino-Tibetan language.
Yes.
So it's a totally different branch.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, so Burmese is monosyllabic, like I think like Thai. So the one syllable is like we can combine the different syllable, a word, etc. So in fact, in a paragraph or sentence, we don't actually have the space. So it's very personal. So I can put the space as I like. Or for the for the press or typing, the typewriter system, we try to, because we use a lot of Pali words.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Following foreign words. So to be able to make it easier to read, we put the space, in fact, for example.
Okay, that's interesting.
Space, and then Burmese, for example, and then space. So it's still personal. We don't have the rules where to make the space.
Okay, so if I've correctly understood, then in the traditional way, you run everything together in a sentence.
Exactly.
But as in modern times, you have the option. So if you're typing or putting it in a computer, the option to put the space.
Yes, exactly. Like when we talk, we put a pause. And then the same, what I want to say, I put a break as I like, and then I go on.
Okay, I follow. So if you're speaking, you have your own style of speaking. You can just put the pauses where you want, depending on exactly how you want to say it.
Exactly.
And you can do that in writing. You're allowed to do that in writing as well.
Yes, exactly, in writing as well. But the word is one syllable, two syllable is a word. So for us, it's a little bit easier, but we use a lot of Pali words a little bit, that makes more complex, because like putting two language together.
That's right. I mean, that does make it more complex. And it's exactly the same in Thai there, because ignoring Pali, Thai is fundamentally a monosyllabic language, but with a lot of polysyllabic Pali words, which actually can add to the difficulties when you're writing a sentence, that everything run together. If you know it's all monosyllables, easy enough. But when you get a polysyllabic word, I'm sure children must have some difficulty with that. It's just part of the dukkha we have to put up in our education. Each language has its own problems. Mm.
Yeah.
So, who is next
And
to?
Tibet, I was going to say, James, Tibetan separates out the syllables with a little dot between, so it doesn't. There's not an extra spacing to show where the word breaks are.
Yeah, I mean, I do thoroughly approve of the way the Tibetans do it. So they put a dot. The Tibetan is very clearly based on the Devanagari script, but they put a dot at the end of each essentially monosyllabic word. However, they break the syllables up in that way, but they still roll all the words in the sentence together into one block. So they helpfully separate the syllables, but on the other hand, they do not, even though they jolly well could if they wanted to, separate the words. And of course, Tibetan doesn't really have a tiny bit of sandhi, but no serious sandhi in the same way as Sanskrit does. Okay, then. So, are we round to you, Chris? And we're about to hear it from Chris, of course, with the full flowing sandhi, with no kind of jerky pauses between the words.
Nityo hiyachaitanas chatma vyo mavat sprashtam akriyaha pratya yantara sangepi nivikarasya ka kriya.
Okay, Chris, that was pretty impressive, the way the Chaitanya did come out flowingly. That certainly did. There was a bit of a stumble over the pratyayantara sange. It's just think of it as pratyaya antara, which becomes pratyayantara.
Pratyayantara sangepi.
Okay, that was good. Say that with all of your effort to get these few syllables right, you actually then fell into the trap of over-lengthening the final a. Pratyayantara, pratyayantara sange.
Tara sangepi, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Anne, we're round to you. You're muted, Anne. There we are.
Nityo yachetanaschatma vyoma vat spashtam akriyaha pratyayantara sange pi nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Nirvikarasya ka kriya.
You're falling into the English phonetic trap. And the trap is, if we were a long R in this position is a little bit alien to English. Nirvika, we want to say nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Okay, very good. And also, you made in your speech a little pause, as we've just been discussing, where you put a slight pause in speech is a matter of the style and mannerism of the individual speaker. But you put a slight pause when you vyoma vat. It would always be pronounced as one word, vyoma vat, literally sky-like, vyoma vat.
Yomavat.
That's very good. Okay, thank you, Anne. Excellent. Good. Kath, round to you.
Nityo hyachetanashchatma vyomavat spashtam akriyaha pratyayantara sangepi nirvikarasya ka kriya.
Kath, is this verse a little bit outside of your comfort zone for the chanting?
I think that I don't know a tune for this number of syllables.
Okay. So the way you've learned then, is it a specific tune depending on the prosody of the individual verse, and that so the number of syllables will determine
I
the melody.
haven't learned to chant this kind of thing.
Okay.
But while studying, actually, I guess it was the Gita. I learned then the tunes that fit with those lines.
Okay.
What I was actually taught was there weren't actual set tunes for the Vedic chanting. But if I have a quick look, and I think this has something like 15 syllables.
Nityo Chetanaschatma is 8. Yoma Vatspashtamakriya. 8. It's 8 plus 8.
Oh, is it?
Which ought to be a fairly
That
standard.
should be all right then.
It's.
Let's
I
have a
think
go.
it's. I think it's.
Nityo Yacheta. No, it just doesn't fit for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if anyone else knows a tune for this.
I was under the impression, and Kath, I'm not an expert on this aspect. I was under the impression that you started off pretty well there.
Nityo Yacheta Naschatma Vyom. No, can't do it.
James, I've been listening to Gabrielle, and I think I've got the tune for this.
Okay, Barry, yeah, come in. Gabriella Bonnell to the rescue.
Nityo Hachinatas Chatma Vyoma Vatspashtamakriya Pratyayantara Sange Pirnivakarasya Kriya.
That came out pretty well, Barry.
I've been listening to Gabrielle.
Yeah, she's a very fine teacher in many respects.
Yes.
So jolly good. Thanks for that. So, Paladin, would you like to come in?
As long as I'm not expected to chant, which I think.
Go on, have a go. No, nobody's compelled.
Nityo Hechetanaschatma Vyomavatspaштamakriya Pratyayantara Sangepi Nirvikarasya Kriya.
You see, you said you weren't going to chant, and it came out rather well. Maybe we're all getting this chanting bug now.
Well, I couldn't resist a challenge.
Okay, no, that came out nicely, Paladin. Thank you. Julian, do you feel inclined to give it a go? Since we are
Hi, James.
discovering hidden talents in ourselves, Julian. Hello,
Yes.
please come in.
Nityo Haisetana Satma Vyomavat Pasta Makriya Pratyayantara Sanje Pinirvikarasya Kakriya.
Do you know, we're having quite a lot of seriously good, creative, inventive stuff here. That was really nice, Julian. One point I'll pick you up on, I think somebody else did it as well. I can't remember. It was saying Nityu Hayache, not Hayache. It's you've got to remember this is a here. So what this word is, it is on its own without the sandhi. It's just he, a short he. He achetana becomes hyachetana. So it's pronounced the e followed by the a is just pronounced like an English y, an English y. So it's hyachetana.
Chetana.
That is absolutely correct. The way you did it just then is right, absolutely right. Hyachetana. Again, so I was saying if you were separating out the sandhi, it's he achetana, with Santi, Hyachetanaha.
Hyachetana.
Well, thank you very much, Julian. You've got that. You're dead on for that. So I'm partly distracted because I've got a third attempt at an Amazon delivery due to come up any moment. Right, where were you? So, Sanya, yes, please, Dilly, come in.
Yeah, I can chant it like Bhagavad Gita, the same tune.
Why don't you try that here? Because in fact, the Bhagavad Gita, as we know, most of those verses are what's known as the Anushtup, which is each pada is 8 plus 8, then 8 plus 8. That's the most common form in the book. So yes, please, Dilly, you proceed.
Okay. Nityo hyachetana chatma vyomavad spashtama kriyaha pratyayantara sangepi nirvikarasya ka kriya.
That was very good indeed. And this has now made me think that you're chanting like the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Keith got his, Barry got his from Gabriella Bernal, who has done, I think she's probably done the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, has she? Anyway, her YouTube videos of her chanting the Bhagavad Gita are freely available. And of course, as I was just mentioning, the most common of the verse lengths in the Bhagavad Gita is the same as this verse length here. In fact, throughout Sanskrit poetry, excluding the Vedas, the thing on their own, but throughout classical Sanskrit poetry, it's this meter, 8 plus 8, 8 plus 8, is just the most common meter throughout. There are other ones, but this is the preferred common meter. And it's almost as popular as, like, the iambic pentameter also in English verse. Good. So who is left to go? Is there anybody who hasn't? I think we've all had a go. Right. So we can, in a moment, then proceed to the actual Bhagavad Gita. But I'll deal with any comments or queries first, if there are any. Before we pass on, I just want to mention again, I'm sure you've all got it by now, the word that I've highlighted there, kriya, is a feminine noun, and it's a feminine noun of the most frequent type. That's one ending in a long a, kriya, literally meaning action, and with various extended meanings. Here, we see, I'll put it down with the sandhi vigraha, to kriya. However, at the end of the preceding line, we see it as a kriyaha, as in a masculine form. So I think you all have this by now, but the point is that where you have the word kriya used as a freestanding feminine noun, as a noun meaning action, we are now making a compound adjective out of it here by simply putting the negating prefix a. That makes the word mean actionless. So what happens? As a feminine noun, it naturally wants to end in the long a, with the nominative singular feminative, so nominative singular feminine. But when it becomes an adjective, it no longer has the characteristic long a of the feminine nouns. It now treats itself, it declines like any other adjective the short declension. So since this now refers to a masculine singular subject, it has, as it were, it morphs, it forgets that it started life, as it were, on its own as a feminine noun, and it simply morphs into an adjective that will behave like any other adjective and will agree in number and, here importantly, gender and case. That's why it now will appear as a masculine word.
So which word is it agreeing with, James? I'm not quite.
It's the Atma. It's agreeing with Atma.
And is Atma not feminine?
Ah, okay. Sod's law that this just happens to be that word is the one one that it agrees with. Let me just oops. Let me just explain the position here. Hopefully my iPad is back working, is it? Okay, it is. Okay. Is my screen shared with the iPad? On the screen, we've just been looking at the word Atma, right? And I've just written Atman. The stem form is Atman. This belongs to the broad category of nominals, that's nouns and adjectives, where the stem ends in a consonant, not a vowel. There are subcategories of it, but there is one broad category where the stem ends in a consonant. So the stem form is Atman. There is a rule now. How do you decline masculines ending in an n? So stem masculine nouns. Okay, the rule is for the nominative is that the an simply becomes an a. So that's simply a special rule of declension that masculine nouns ending in an stem make an a in the nominative singular. So it's just coincidentally looks like the standard feminine ending a, but it's an a for a different reason.
Yeah, thanks.
And also the accusative retains the long a, becomes atmanam. What happens now for example, the dative? We now revert to pure stem form. Sorry, this is atmana. Sorry, atmana. So atma, atmanam, atmana. This is just how these the end stems decline. Just to add a little bit of complexity to the mix, the word for name, we all know as nama, Sanskrit for name, nama rupa, name and form, or materiality, mentality. Nama is also a noun of the N stem declension. So it is the stem form is naman, just as the stem form of atma is atman. Atman is a masculine noun, naman is a neuter noun. It so happens, and it's just a rule of Sanskrit grammar, that the neuter, whereas the masculine nouns in stem an make an a, atman stem, atma nominative singular, naman, because it's neuter, just drops the n but keeps the a short. Nama, that becomes nama.
Is the first syllable still a longer R then, or is that dropped as well?
Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, the
Okay.
first syllable remains unchanged, and of course that's the the same word, etymologically the same word as our English word name. And the Latin nomen, nominal, nomen meaning a name. So again, I'm looking for signs of either illumination or bafflement on the faces of my dear students.
Illumination.
Glad to hear it, Barry. I hope it is shared by your fellows.
You've just proved again, James, my general thing that I hold, if I'm confused by something, it's usually a consonantal declension is the answer.
Are you still confused by the consonantal declension?
No, I just forget about it, and the answer to things I'm puzzled by is usually it's a consonantal declension.
Okay, right. Yeah, the consonantal declension, it's got a lot to answer for. It has created a lot of confusion. But in fact, the best way of approaching the consonantal declension is by a word that we all already know. We all know the word yoga. Let's come into English. And we all know the word yogi.
Are you on your iPad, James?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we all know the word yoga, and a yogi is a person who does yoga. You have also all heard of the in, of nouns and adjectives ending in, consonantal declension. That's simply the stem form. So actually, the stem form of yogi is yogin. What happens is, in exactly the same way that the masculine atman makes its nominative atma, drops the n and lengthens the vowel, atman stem, atma, nominative singular. So nouns and adjectives ending in stem in, and they are very, very numerous. What they do exactly the same, but with the same vowel. So it makes the nominative as yogi, yogi. When you come to the rest of the declension, it's all very, very simple and regular now. So the accusative is yoginam, yoginam. The instrumental, yogina. By the way, this is another instance of a final long R, is the masculine and neuter instrumental singular form of the consonantal declension. Many of you will know the phrase, know the chant, Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo, in Pali, of course. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo. So Bhagavata is the instrumental, by the Blessed One. Yogina, what's the next one? Dative form, yogine. Ablative, yoginaha. Genitive, also yoginaha. And locative, yogini. And to draw a line now, separating these endings, a, e. And these you'll see recurring throughout the consonantal declension. So if you learn these a, e, you've got the endings for the whole of the masculine and neuter consonantal declension. And if you ask about the feminine, that is clear of any problems, because what is a female yogi? It is a yogini, and this now just declines like the normal feminines in long E, which the standard paradigm is nadi, meaning river. So the consonantal, the special rules for the consonantal declension apply only to masculines and neuters, because the feminines, do they all end in an E? I think they all end in an E, and they just decline like E stems in the normal way. So, are we ready to move on to the Bhagavad Gita? Okay, so it will be So I'll read this out and we'll look at a little bit of Sandhi here. Nahi prapashyami mama panudyat yat chokamutchoshanam indriyanam. So I was getting a bit tongue twisted there. Avapya bhuma vasapatnam riddham rajang suranam apichatipatyam. What's the length of syllable? Nahi prapashyami mama panudya chu. I've lost count anyway. It's a lot longer than the usual one. So nahi prapashyami mama panudya yat chokamutchoshanam indriyanam. Avapya bhuma vasapatnam riddham rajyang suranam api chadipatyam. Nahi prapashyami. When you see the second word in a verse, he, this often indicates that what is being said is by way of, as it were, explanation for what has gone before. It's almost like because. We say, for I do not see, nahi prapashyami. We know the word pashyami, it's the regular one for I see, pashyami, pashyasi, pashyati. It's the same as is used in Pali, passami, passasi, passati. And it's that same word from which we have in Pali vipassana, literally seeing into something. Here, it's used with the upasarga, the prefix pra, which has the idea of a discerning kind of seeing through it, analyzing and then seeing, trying to find something and seeing it. So if you just said napashyami, I don't see it. Naprapashyami suggests that he's made an effort to find out, an effort to look for it. Naprapashyami, I can't make it out, I can't see through to it. Nahi prapashyami, and the sentence is a little bit convoluted here, so we'll go down to my analysis here. Nahi prapashyami, I do not see or discern, yad apanudyat, that which might drive away or dispel, mama, my, uchoshanam, parching or desiccating, shokam, grief. And then it's run together. Nahi prapashyami mama apanudyad yat shokam uchoshanam indriyanam. Excuse me, just 1 second. Sorry, chaps, this is the third attempt at an Amazon delivery. Finally, it seems it's taking place. Sorry, can I leave you for two minutes to make sure they don't have to make a fourth attempt? Here we are, that's the one. This is sign for one. No, I'll take it right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Delivery finally successful. Nahi prapashyami then is I do not see or I cannot discern. It suggests he's actually been making an effort to see it. I do not discern. What does he not discern? Yet. The word yet or yed means what, that which. I do not discern what. Apanudyad might drive away. This is an optative form. The root is nud, which means to push something or to shove something. With the prefix apa, it means away, so to push away. I do not discern yed apanudyad, that which could push away or drive away. Mama, my. Shoshanam, parching or desiccating. Shokam, grief. Now, the word shoka, Pali soka, because we all know that from the name of the emperor, Asoka, which means without grief. It would be Ashoka in Sanskrit, Asoka in Pali. And I think I'm right, am I not, Shri Namala and Dili, that the name Asoka is actually still used in Sri Lanka now for as a person. Yes, in fact, there's a lady who comes to my center. She's from Sri Lanka, and she's Asoka in the feminine form, Asoka with a long R. That's the griefless.
Yeah, we have Ashoka, Ashokamala.
Ashokamala.
Yes, like Sri Animala.
Because okay, Shokamala, a mala meaning a garland, as the garland you
Yes.
there was a garland of grieflessness. So Utshoshanam, it's from this Utshoshanam, drying as Utshoshanam, drying up. It's from the root shush, meaning to become dry. This shush became, as it morphed through the various languages, the shush became sukhoi in Russian. Sukhoi means dry, and became siccus in Latin. So siccus, S-I-C-C-U-S, meaning dry, from which we have our English word desiccate, to dry up. It's that same root. So Uchoshana is etymologically quite closely related to desiccating, kind of dries me up. So here, the word order, I do not discern my, what might drive away, which, grief, desiccating. So the word order is really jumbled up. Incidentally, that is why in this box down here, in the parallel box, I generally rearrange the words in a standard English sentence order. So hopefully this will help you to see the structure of the sentence. And bear in mind here that, of course, in a language like Sanskrit, and the same applies to Pali, you can jumble up the word order quite a lot without altering the meaning, because rather like in Latin, the word ending will tend to show you what position it has in the sentence, whether it's subject or object, and so on. So I do not see what could dispel this parching or desiccating grief of the senses. That's the indriya, which is just, the normal, the six senses. The idea is that the faculties, primarily the faculties of sense. So this word indriya, you've all probably heard of the Hindu god Indra. And it's no accident. The similarity between these words is no accident, because the Indra is this divine being, and is most famous for it's the power of Indra. It's very interesting imagery here, because it's the senses here. I mean, our standard senses by which we perceive through bodily sensations are likened to divine powers. That's why our senses are called the Indriyas, are Indra-like powers. So it's the sense of sight, of hearing, all the things that we interact with the outside world. The language gave the senses, the imagery of these things by which we exert a divine power and have a divine power. So as I say, it's no coincidence that Indra is the god Indra, and an Indriya are the senses by which we can interact and even exert power over the outside world. So nahi prapashyami mama panudyat yet shokamuchoshanam indriyanam. We have here actually two similar sandhis, or identical sandhis at the same time. We've got the yet shokam. On its own, it would be yet shokam, wherever I'm highlighting here. It's regular sandhi where you get a word ending in a t and the next word beginning with a sh. It morphs by sandhi into a double ch. So yet shokam becomes yet chokam. I wish I'd learnt that rule earlier than I did. It would have saved me quite a bit of fruitless searching in dictionaries. But there it is. And we have the exact same sandhi in the very next word by coincidence. So this is ut shoshanam, drying up, desiccating. So the ut shoshanam becomes uchoshanam by exactly that same rule of sandhi. And the indriyanam is our standard generative plural of indriyam, which is a neuter noun. Indriyam, the senses, is the indriyani. So what he's saying is that he cannot see anything that could dispel or cure this desiccating grief of the senses, which would come about by how avapya, obtaining, bhumau, on earth, asapatnam ridham, unrivaled wealth, rajyam suranam api, and even the api, even rajyam, kingship over the suras, suranam, which is a form of divine being, another category of divine beings. So rajam suranam apichatipatyam. Adhipati is an overlord. I'll explain this word. We know the word pati, meaning a lord. It comes from a very, very primitive root, pa, meaning to protect. By a slight morphing of it, it's the same word that becomes a pita, which is the Sanskrit for father. We also have the form the pati. So pati normally means a lord. It started off meaning a protector, then came to have the meaning of a lord. Among the Hindus, the wife, I know it all sounds very politically incorrect in our modern age in the West, but the wife will refer to her husband as her pati, my lord. And in fact, the real Hindu ladies will refer to we wouldn't say my husband, Mere Pati Dev, my Lord God. It's a pity these wonderful old traditions have died out in England. There we are. So the pati then is a lord. And adhipati, adhi just means over, means up to or over. So rather like in English, we can say lord, overlord. So equally in Sanskrit, pati, adhipati. And the word is formed in exactly the same way. So lord over other lords. Here we have an example. I'll just write.
Are you writing, James?
Yeah, just starting. I was thinking I beat Peldon to it then, but although I beat you to thinking about it, I didn't beat you to actually calling up the iPad. So can't actually prove it. So Adhipati, overlord. It is a very common way of forming abstract nouns in Sanskrit, that you strengthen or you apply vriddhi, strengthening to the first syllable. So becomes a. And instead of the final vowel, you change that to ya. So adhipati, adhipatya. Make the abstract noun. So the adhipati, overlord, adhipatya, overlordship. The quality of being overlord. Also, we see it in this verse, Rajyam, kingship. How is that formed? I will show you as soon as I've got my iPad back. What do I do with my iPad? It disappeared for a moment. I got it back. So we know that the word Raja means a king. Oh, while on that subject, here we are again. It's an stem noun. The stem form Rajan. Therefore, it's masculine. So the nominative singular is Raja. Okay, exactly same as Atman, Atma, Rajan, Raja. We are going to form an abstract noun from Raja by strengthening the first syllable. Well, the first syllable has started off as a long A, and you can't strengthen it any further, so that remains unchanged. So what do you use? Instead of the A, you just put Ya. So Raja is a king, and Rajya is kingship. And that is what we see here. Rajyam and Adhipatyam, kingship and overlordship. So there would still be this desiccating grief, even if I obtained, avapya, having obtained, Rajyam and Adhipatyam, kingship and overlordship, Suranamapicha, even over the Suras. That's a higher class of beings than humans. What he's saying here is, even if I gained overlordship and kingship over the higher class of beings, namely the Suras, even then I cannot see how I could drive away this terrifying, desecrating grief of my senses. And what else is he going to obtain? Avapya, it's from our root ap, meaning to get. So avapya, having obtained bhumau. I'm going to ask Chris about the word bhumau. And there's a particular reason I'm singling you out, Chris, to ask you about it.
You're going to have to enlighten me, James.
Okay, well, I know it was slightly unfair of me, but I even singled you out when I was talking to the Buddhist Society Summer School a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes.
I did, yes. Because we were looking at the word adi, meaning beginning.
Yes.
And then we came across the locative form, which is adau.
Yes.
And then I just remember the Mahashoka, the great grief on Chris's face. We said, but I thought the locative ended in a. Well, the answer is yes, it does, but for stems ending in a short a, buddhe, vihare, nagare. But for stems ending in an e, you make the locative in o, not a. So adau. So has it come back to you now, Chris?
It's yes.
So we have the word bhumi, meaning the earth or the ground.
Yes.
In fact, it's used in some Buddhist systems, the bhumis, meaning stages of development. I think there's Paladin, you may be able to help us here. There's a particular Tibetan word. I don't know what the Tibetan word is, but it's a translation of the bhumis, meaning the stages of development.
No, I don't know what the Tibetan translation is.
Okay, right. But you're familiar with the idea of the bhumis, the various stages.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Tibetan tradition, I've only ever seen it in the Sanskrit.
Okay, right. Okay. So its basic meaning is just the earth, as in planet Earth. And the root is our familiar root bhu, meaning to be. And it's one of the ways of forming a noun from root bhu to be bhumi, that which is, or that which is the mother of being, that which allows us our being, the being, bhumi. And then by extension, it means the earth. So avapya bhumau, having obtained on earth, that means on this planet earth on which we're living, asapatnam riddham, unrivaled wealth. This pat or patna and the pat of pati, it's no accident that they're the same. Asapatnam means no co-lord. In other words, nobody to rival you for your undisputed mastery. That's why it can be translated as unrivaled, without a co-lord. Like, you can't have two alpha males in the same community. One has got to be the dominant alpha male, and this the same idea here is asapatna. There's no co-alpha male, to rival your position there. So that's why asapatna then as an adjective is used to mean unrivaled, unequaled. So asapatnam riddham, unrivaled wealth.
James, on a completely different subject, I had a quick look at chapter 16 of the Gita on divine and demonic civilizations last week, and at a modern English translation. And
Sorry, of chapter 16 of the
demonic
Gita.
And divine and demonic civilizations.
Mm.
What surprised me from the English translation was, even though the Gita was obviously written thousands of years ago, how relevant it is it gives one a real insight into what's really driving the terrible difficulties that are going on in the world at present. It's quite astonishing, really, and rather unnerving.
I absolutely agree with you. And for me, one of the most powerful messages that we get from the reading of these ancient scriptures is we have not changed since then. We've got a bit of extra technology. Yeah, okay, we've got that. But we have not changed. We are the same beings with our loves and our hates and our cruelties. So, time has not changed the description of us as given by the ancient Hindus and the ancient Buddhists. Yeah, very interesting point you've raised there, Chris. Yeah. My God, we're still doing the same thing. Yeah.
In fact, over the past couple of thousand of years, there haven't been any biological evolutionary need to change in that sort of way. There's no longer the same factors that drive evolution. So although we've evolved technologically, we haven't evolved in any other way. We've still got the same brain that we had then.
Well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, it's really fascinating that so many of the things we think are slightly odd, not fully comprehensible human behavior becomes very comprehensible if you just go back to our hunter-gatherer days. And the thing is, it's only in evolutionary scale, not a terribly long time has elapsed since hunter-gatherer days, and not long enough to make a substantial kind of evolution in our minds and hearts. So, we've still got these forces. I was about to say dark forces, but they aren't. They were forces that were very useful for hunter-gatherer days. Certain instincts we had then is why we have survived now. But the trouble is these old mechanisms, they're still running there in the background, even though many of them have completely outlived their usefulness, in fact become thoroughly harmful. Unless we spot them for what they are.
But before I retired, I was a psychiatrist, and a lot of emotional problems can be understood as caveman responses and behavior. They were intended to be protective at the time, but are no longer protective in the same way.
In fact, can be positively harmful now if applied to modern life. Yeah. Goodness me. So you still do psychotherapy, Chris, do you not? Okay, this is getting more interesting as we go along, but I will have to bid you goodbye now. I will see you, hopefully all of you next week. You should have received my email yesterday, I think, that basically I'm taking on a major new teaching commitment for my own Sangha in Manchester and, in fact, worldwide. However, when I was thinking of dropping loads of, or shedding some of the load of my teaching commitment, and the thing that kept coming up in my mind is I do not want to drop my current group of students. Some of you have been with me for years. I cannot drop you, so I'm going to have to cut down a bit. The exact way we will do it remains to be seen. Will be sorted out over summer. But please be assured, I'm determined not to abandon you. I enjoy it too much myself for a start.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all very much then,
Thank you,
and see you next week, hopefully.
Thank you,
then.
James.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
James,
Bye.
James, just to let you know, I'm on retreat next week, so I'm going to miss the last Pali and Sanskrit classes of this term.
Okay, that's a pity. So it'll have to be after the
But,
summer then.
I'll wait to hear what happens next. But
I will keep you. I'll keep all of you in the loop.
I'm glad you're not dropping us all together.
I'm certainly not. Okay, thank you then.
Thank you,
Thanks all.
James.
Thank you. Goodbye all. Goodbye.